All right. Yes, so we don't quite have a quorum yet, so we'll wait for a few minutes. So bear with us here while a few more of our members show up. We have a member out ill this morning, so
And
hang on.
just a reminder to unmute your mics when you
Oh,
speak.
all right.
Thank you.
What is that? Well-versed.
Got it. We can go through the agenda items that don't involve voting if you want to do that. We could,
Okay.
you want to start with the welcome officially?
So,
Start with
okay,
that?
so let's do that. We'll call the meeting to order and we'll stay away
I don't think
from.
we can call it to order.
Oh, I can't call it to order either. Oh, my gosh.
I don't think so.
This is complicated, isn't it? Okay, so we won't call the meeting to order,
Uh-huh.
but we will officially welcome Kelly Ewald.
Perfect.
How about that? Hey, there she is.
Hey.
All right, let me,
Oh, yeah, as one does. Yeah.
welcome. Okay,
Now we can call.
so
the meeting.
now we have Tammy, thank you for coming in this morning. We have a quorum and we will officially call the meeting to order. And we will officially, for the 20th time, welcome Kelly Ewald to the organization. She's our new development director. Maybe Kelly, give us a little thumbnail about your background and that, and just for purposes of everybody getting to know you.
Thank you. So for the last 4 years, I was the community coordinator for the Village of Berrien Springs, doing outreach, little economic development, communications, events and things. So I have my master's in public administration and super excited to be here. So yeah, thank you.
We are very, very glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. And so we hope you're still here after this meeting. All right,
Do you
next,
guys mind doing some quick introductions?
quick,
Kelly?
what do we need?
Introduce yourselves for Kelly.
Oh, introduce ourselves to her.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So I'm sorry, because I've already met Kelly. So we
Sorry.
already, A big powwow. All right, so let's go around the table.
Forget
Chris,
your microphones.
you gotta turn your microphone on. You gotta hit the little button there.
I think I still take on the role of development.
Oh.
So I have a office here in town and we grew up in St. Joe, went to Michigan State and practiced in Illinois, Indiana and other places, and came back here about 15 years ago, and now I'm sitting on the board.
Hi, I'm Tammy Faber. I'm the Executive Director of Krasel Art Center. And I've been with that organization since 2008. I have a art history museum studies background, but we do lots of public art placements and have a vested interest in the downtown.
Welcome, Kelly. I'm Sue Reamland. I'm the Executive Director at St. Joe Schools Foundation, and I'm the resident rep on the DDA, so I live smack downtown right on State Street. Welcome.
Hi, Tom Golick. I'm a retired bum and chairman of this illustrious group. So welcome, Kelly. It's great. Good to see you.
I'm Deb Saylor. I own the Market building right through the alley and I'm the cheese lady.
Right. Okay. All right. So now we will proceed with looking at the minutes of the last meeting. We last met on October 28th. Those are included in your packet and in the information that Emily sent out over the weekend. Is there anything we need to clean up there relative to the minutes? I think I scanned through these. They looked expertly prepared. Anything? Give you a minute there to take a look.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, very good. A second somewhere.
I'll second.
Any more discussion about that? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. All right, approved the minutes. Next, financial information. So you have our normal summary page on packet page number 7, which is a current year activity through September. So what is that? That's July, August, September, 3 months in the hopper. No,
No,
no.
because this is wrong.
Oh, okay.
Right? We said we were going to update it and then I didn't.
Ah,
It
right.
is not through September. Last time was through September. This is through
Through October, okay.
October.
But so the numbers are October, okay.
The numbers are October. I apologize.
You did that just see if I was paying attention.
I
and I
did.
didn't pick that up, so, yeah, right. Okay, very
Now we
good.
know.
So October, so we have 4 months in the hopper. And the one thing we should mention is the audit of the city's accounts is not quite yet complete,
We'll present the draft tonight at the city commission
right?
and have a meeting with the audit committee earlier
Right.
in the day. So we're getting close and we'll
Right.
have it done by the end of the calendar year.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why it seems like it's taken a long time, we have new auditors this year. And if you know anything about that process, when you have new people, it takes a bit longer. So next go round, we'll have firmer numbers, I think, in terms of starting point and all that, although I don't think anything's going to change. So what you have is probably accurate, but
Yeah,
we'll have it officially pinned down at that point.
exactly.
So I don't know, does anybody have any questions about the finances at this point? I think it's kind of quiet, frankly, relative to financial activity, other than the some of the Christmas stuff. You know, we've been doing downtown. Nothing's really kicked in on the capital stuff as of yet.
We do plan to roll over the 191,000.
Is that a good number? I was
Yeah.
wondering on that.
Yeah, that
Okay.
number looks right.
Okay,
We do plan to roll that over and that is expected to go to the city commission in their January meeting.
okay. And then, so that'll be the 191 plus 200 incremental for
Correct.
the new fiscal year.
And that's already in the budget.
And that's already baked in. Of course, our big project as we go into the springtime will be the sign fabrication for the wayfinding.
Is-
So that'll be a big number.
Is a company picked for that? Did I miss that?
The RFP is out
It's
as
out,
of a
okay.
week ago today and responses are due back December 20th.
Okay.
So that will also be on the January city commission.
And you
meeting.
sent, did you say you sent that to like 4 or 5 or 6 or?
They sent it to 3 initially, and then I asked them to increase it a bit, and so I think they sent it to another 2 or 3.
Okay, Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll have that coming. Again, anything else on this? I think pretty straightforward. We get a motion to approve the financial report.
I move to approve the financial report.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Second?
Second.
All right, second. Any more discussion about that? All right, all in favor of approving the financial report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, next order of business. Our two favorite topics here are parking lots and parking. I don't know, we're really hung up on the whole parking lots and parking. So next order of business is to talk about parking lot 11. And we have a guest here to help us with that.
We are Spicer's been hard at work. The last time we were here, I think the rendition that we had shown was like 139 spaces.
All right.
The concept that is here and I'll hand out, like 158 spaces. So we're positive 19 from the last time. There are some opportunities to increase that number significantly with some minor changes. So I think the design really captures what we talked about the last time. Increased parking. We've kind of got a walkway through. We're showing the ADA parking. And then we went with 90-degree parking, so the angled parking to kind of maximize some of that space. We did cut into some green space to make this all work. But with some, like I said, with some changes that we can do, we can get closer to the 181 of what the parking lot is currently.
And that's what it
at.
was previously, Greg, with one.
Previously, it was 181. This is reflecting 158 with some changes, and it kind of spells out some of those changes on here. Once I hand it out, we could actually get pretty close to 181 or maybe even over that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of those changes could make it pretty barren and not as inviting.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I think there's a balance in there somewhere. So I'll pass this out and then kind of talk through some of those possibilities.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about last time was on the, I guess that lower right part of the drawing there. No, I'm sorry. Go down. Yeah, down, keep going down along Broad Street there. I thought, didn't we have like another row in there or something? Wasn't that one of the suggestions?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Ah, right.
So I think we found out, the voice that, so
So that's not really feasible, we're saying?
it might be feasible. I would advise against it. But
Ah, right. Okay.
it can be done.
All right.
But
I got
this concept, like I said, it increases the number without having to get into that space. And we maintain some of that green space that we were, I think, kind of,
Yep.
we
Yep.
wanted the green space, but we wanted the parking. I think we got both here. We increased our parking, we kept some of the green space.
Some issues, as I understand it, with funding. Some of the funding that was used to do Broad Street was a grant.
Oh,
And if we begin to change what was funded, we might have to return some of that grant money. So I know Tim is probably the best suited to speak to that. But he raised some pretty serious concerns
all right.
about that.
So some of the options here, as we said, 158 spaces. You can eliminate the drive-through. As you come off of Broad Street, it allows you to drive through the lot. That was something we heard. People didn't want to have to drive all the way around the lot. They wanted to drive through. Eliminating that alone gains you 14 additional spaces. So you increase parking by 14 additional spaces. So now you go up from 158, now you're at like 163. So we're getting, oh no, more than 160, like 173.
173, yeah.
So we're moving in the right direction just by eliminating that. If you remove that walkway, again, that was something we heard a lot of, is having a walkway through the lot to make it easier to access the businesses there across that are in the lot. So you could potentially add an additional 12 spaces there. So now you've went over the 181 of the current lot, if you eliminate that. And then you eliminate some of those islands that are in there. Obviously, now we're north of 181, but then you've got a pretty unappealing parking lot from an aesthetics standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, are parking lots ever appealing? I mean, I don't mean to be that as snarky as it sounds, but I don't think the trees and the grass, I don't think they add that much to the party. I mean, I get that they do, especially trees add some shade, but like parks are aesthetically pleasing. A parking lot is a cement feature. It always is. And putting a tiny bit of grass or some shrubs on it doesn't make it a park. It's still a parking lot.
Does that do anything for like, runoff and water and all that kind of stuff, when you have the
Well, it
little
certainly,
islands?
it certainly helps with reducing your impervious surface by having that.
Yeah,
But also keep in mind, having some of the screen space, having the trees does follow with the master plan that talked about
Yeah.
sure,
improving the aesthetic look of the parking lot. So
sure.
trying to balance the two.
Well, I mean, I think if you
Um,
want to try and improve it, I know there was talk about doing like a little half wall around it to make it more screen it a little bit, and I think that always makes a parking lot look better when you're just not looking at all the pavement and cars. Like, to me, that's I mean, because everybody here knows every parking discussion we've ever had, people light their hair on fire about the number of spots there are. And so any way to get more, like the cut through, like, so you don't have to drive all the way around. People are acting like it's an indie track. It's literally 42 seconds to the end of the parking lot. It doesn't save that much time in anyone's day to be able to drive through it halfway. It's not that big. It's just not.
So maybe another thing to think about is, maybe versus a wall, this landscaping along Broad Street and Church Street. I mean, that'll ultimately provides a bit of a barrier of sorts, right? So you're kind of shielding the lot. So maybe what we might think about is, along the middle there, do we need as many, little islands? Because if you start to say, well, maybe we just put them at the ends and you start to, other than by the walkway, let's say we keep the walkway. If you look from from left to right, let's say you keep the one by the bank up there and you start eliminating these, get rid of the drive-through and drop some other ones, you'd pick up, I don't know. I mean, it's not a massive amount of space, but, could help the cause, huh?
If you eliminate the drive-through and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, there's like four
You
of
can
those.
eliminate several of those islands and gain 7 parking spots. So you could gain 21 spots. So you go from 158 and add that. So you're at 178, you're at 179.
Yeah.
We're at 181.
You're
So we're
almost
pretty-
where you were, yeah.
almost where you were.
I mean, I think that the walkway is or some kind of, I think last time we had a discussion, that was important to have some type of runway to the Pleasant Street and all that kind of good
I
stuff.
mean, I think it kind of is, but I also think not very many people actually walk here. So not very many people are gonna actually walk down the Broad Street sidewalk and cross across here to get to these businesses. And if you park here to go over to this bank or whatever, you're not gonna walk down to the middle to go down the sidewalk. You're just gonna walk through the parking lot. So I mean, I'm not strongly in favor of keeping it or removing it. I just don't think it's that critical. It just, unless you park right near it, those are the only people that are ever gonna walk on that sidewalk. Anybody who parks anywhere from like here over or here over is just gonna kind of cut through this way. And not very many people walk down here and are like, oh, here's the sidewalk to go through. I
think
don't see
yeah.
that, but
I don't know if it was as much the walking as providing
Accessible.
I don't know.
It's a little
just
more
a
access.
symbol of it,
Yeah.
of something that's going in there, but.
Yep.
So I guess what I would think about is, maybe along the center strip there, for sake of argument, we leave the walkway, but you've got like 1, 2, if you just kept the end ones, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those that you could eliminate the little,
Yeah.
little islands in the middle. And you could probably do the same along the ends. If you keep the tree line along Broad Street, that's outside the parking lot. I don't know that you need another, these little bump outs you have on the parking closest to Broad Street. You could probably start pulling those out too. So there's another, I don't know, 4 or 5 of those. I don't know. Each of those is probably, I don't know, 2 spaces maybe, or 1 or.
Yeah, like I don't understand all these right next to trees.
Yeah, right. So if you got the tree line on Broad Street, I think that's kind of the,
Yeah, we can.
when
we
Deb
can remove some of
mentions like
those.
some kind of screen or whatever, to me, when those trees start to grow out, then you have a, kind of a natural barrier, don't you? I
Well,
mean,
and depending on exactly how much we cut into that green space, because there is, we do need to cut into that space for this design to work. Those existing trees may be able to stay. Just
Oh.
depends on how far we cut into it.
All right.
All of our green trees are the ones that are currently existing.
So those will stay.
Oh, so some are already there, you're saying? Ah, right. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yep. So these are already there. I got you. Okay, well, that's even better, right? I guess, we don't have to do a lot of extra work, so we keep that. So does this drawing like keeps the sidewalk, right? And it keeps that green space buffer?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, those trees that are actually inside the lot seem a little redundant in a way, huh?
Especially the ones around the perimeter.
Yeah.
But
If you got these over here too on the other side.
yeah, they're.
Yeah, so
always-
maybe the idea is you think about it in terms of, you kind of got it surrounded, and what's in the middle. That Deb's earlier point is, let's maximize the parking in the middle. And maybe.
I would maximize the parking in the whole thing, but
And then
that's,
minimize the, well, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying keep just the perimeter along the streets. And where inside the parking lot itself,
yeah.
get rid of the little islands, and maybe we keep the walkway just to, keep that concept
So-
going.
Eliminate the center drive aisle, eliminate some of the tree islands. And I mean, ultimately,
What do you think about that? I mean, just, so basically what you would do is you'd keep the trees along the roadway. And then inside it, I don't know, I might keep the ones on the ends, just.
yeah, I think
Just-
the ends stay just because I don't know that you gain any parking there. You gotta
Yeah,
have,
keep the ones on the
kind of a-
ends, but everything in the middle, get rid of.
delineates the alley from the
Yeah,
parking
that's
lot.
right. That's right. So you keep these, so if I was gonna mark this up, I do this, oh, maybe I keep that one. That's okay. Get rid of
I'll-
this, get rid of this, get rid of
I'll
this.
ask our guests, I know you used a lot. I mean, any feedback?
To get more parking, so the more spaces, the better, but I still like having the walkway, the main walkway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Look at this. I mean, I just kind of crossed out gone, yeah, gone. Yeah, gone, yeah, gone, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and just keep the ones on the, the driveway, again, the ones along the bank. I think that makes sense. Maybe keep the ones at the entry to the driveway, just to delineate the driveway.
This one.
And, get rid of everything else inside with the exception of the walkway.
What if you had the walkway just be an extension from, like, move it over a little to the left and have it in line with those trees and still seems to make more sense if you have it that way. You see where I'm talking? Like if you were to cross Broad
Right at
Street.
the entrance.
Yeah, right at the entrance and have it.
So the thought here was aligning with
That
here to
opening
make the
between
connection
the
to Court
buildings.
Place
Yeah.
back there as Court Place Plaza is developed. So that's the thought process of that placement, was making that connection.
No, we're keeping the Broadway. for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're keeping the Broadway entrance, yeah.
Yep. I'll note that I did have I did reach out to the owner of the old Fifth Third building. Cause we had kind of thought, maybe temporarily we could put parking across his drive-through in the meantime. And then they lease their bottom floor, would have access to their the drive-through. They weren't interested. So we're not showing that. We were hoping maybe they would want to have some conversations, but they want to maintain that space. They want to have flexibility for renting the first floor out. If they rent it to somebody that doesn't need a drive-through, they'll use that as private parking. So they want to maintain that area. So just want to point out that we did reach out and have those conversations.
So is that, I mean, what do you think? I mean, kind of where we're going with this, hollow out the inside of the parking lot, maximize the spaces, keep the green concept along the, in essence, the outside perimeter. Does that make some sense? Yeah.
If you wanted to, I could probably squeeze.
Do it.
Okay.
You can.
More the merrier, So.
Or we could make a skinner, you could add over more just by shifting the path a little bit and have some green. on the
Sure.
side, so we could gain probably 8 more just by not having curb islands next to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good,
You're saying we keep the path, but we would shift it?
Keep the path, but instead of having it through a raised like grass island, just delete the grass and you just have 4 parking spaces that are just.
yeah, don't make it as elaborate, I guess, is maybe the way to think about it.
Maybe a little bit less obvious to people parking. That one person. parks there.
Yeah,
So how many spaces would that gain us? That cost
Probably
savings
8,
or-
I think.
Oh,
I
Save some cost on curb also. That's pretty-
I mean, it seems to me if we do all these things, we're gonna be over the amount we have now.
Yeah, we're extending it a little bit further this way, because right now, the last parking spaces, they're basically enough room you can drive down the lot without even going to that alley. Is there? They're going to 9-degree parking. I need to squeeze a little bit more lengthwise. I believe here as well, same thing, we can squeeze a little bit more in a row because it's not understanding. Bumping the curve back a little bit farther in the space.
I like the idea of having the drive part go all the way through. I will say, I don't know if it's worth sacrificing all the parking spaces, but when I drive there, I know it's 42 seconds, but it feels long. And you see a spot and it's right there, and now I'm going all the way down to church and swinging. all
Okay,
the
but
way
is that worth sacrificing a parking? So to me, it's a priority thing.
Yeah.
Yes, oh, there's a spot and I have to, that took me a minute to get there. But is that worth sacrificing 8 or 10 spots? Like, to me, the 8 or 10 spots are more important than somebody's inconvenience of having to spend another half a minute to go around.
Well,
That's just my personal opinion.
If you take out the drive-through and the trees on both sides, how many spots is that again?
This would be 14 spots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, to me, 14 spots is like, if I'm weighing it and given all of the uproar of where is everyone supposed to park? There's no place for the employees. Like, 14 spots is 4 people's staffs on a July day. That, to me, that addresses a legitimate concern people have about where their employees are gonna be able to park in a free lot.
That's a slug of spots. I would agree.
So to me,
Yeah,
I think personally, and I wasn't at the last meeting to see the original presentation, but to bring any plan with a reduction in parking spots, I would not be in favor of.
Pass.
It won't pass. I think it's ill-advised for the amount of money that
we're gonna
this
spend on it.
project
Yep,
will
yep.
spend. That doesn't make any sense. So I think we're getting closer. I'd be going more spots. I love the green space and all that. And in a perfect world, if we had more space that you could add that, that would be great. But right now, I think you have to figure out what's the maximum number of cars you can get in there.
I think what we're talking about here is a good compromise. You know, we kind of screen the lot from the outside with trees and what have you. But inside the lot itself, we maximize the spacing. And we're not as concerned about the green space. I mean, to me, that strikes me as a pretty good compromise. Because when you pass by it from the outside, you know, you'll have the trees and all that, so there's a bit of screening there. But, you know, once you actually go into the lot, I think all you want to do is find a parking space, right? And you know, obviously, if there's more of them, your odds are better. So I don't know, that's the way I would think about it.
And I think the other thing to consider is right now they're one way, and these are gonna be two way. So
Yeah,
if you
that's
need that
true.
Spot, you can move, you
Yeah.
can drive the way you
Yeah.
need to get.
It's a
to that
good
spot
point.
Rather than having. to
Good
force
point.
yourself
Oh,
all the way around.
It's good.
Okay, so as always, we sufficiently confused you about what we'd like to like to do here.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we're gonna remove the islands, we remove this drive through we settled on.
Yep.
Yeah.
This drive through. This part.
I mean, here you can- I mean, I kind of scribbled on this one. I mean, if you want to take this one, I mean, basically what I'm saying is everything inside the lot itself, get rid of those things. With the exception of the, trees kind of on the ends and stuff, because that kind of, to me, that provides definition to the parking lot. But inside the lot itself, we're going to maximize the spacing.
I will note, so we show 6 handicap parking spaces. That's what we're required. I understand that ADA may be changing and we potentially be required a 7th spot that has to accommodate an electric vehicle charging at the same time.
Oh, baby. There you
So
go.
depending on timing of when that comes out and when we construct, we could end up with a 7th.
Is
handicap
the
spot.
handicap spaces, how does that work? Is it like a percentage of how many spaces you have in
Correct.
total? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So
So
if
what-
that came into play, would you put that 7th spot right next to the existing?
Probably,
Just
I
add
mean,
another one.
because likely we'd have, because we're going to put in infrastructure for car charging stations. We have power over here because of the lights, so
Sure.
it makes sense that we'd probably put it in here and have the electric car charging over here anyways.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
but what it sounds like from what I've heard, and like I said, I don't know what the timing of that is. We could end up having to have one more, and it has to be for
Yeah,
electric
It's
car
okay.
charging. So
it's all right. But I think overall, if we do this scheme, we're going to probably add a few spaces relative to where we are today. So that's a good thing.
right, we should end up right at like 180, 181, which is where
Yeah.
we're at today.
Or maybe even a few more. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Chris, since you do this kind of work for a living, what are your thoughts on, you've been very quiet. And I know we've talked, just casually about parking lot
What
improvements.
is the problem with the right of way? The ordinance allows us to park in the right of way. What is the problem with the right of way?
Any future improvements along the road would become more expensive because you have to impact. Could become more expensive if you have to impact parking lot. So if you need to replace utilities, things go on different location. For example, water. Refill that you can put it in the exact same spot, so it takes up some extra width. But also I didn't know about the grant fund regulated to the.
Right.
So
We think we'd have to return some money if we did that.
I think we'd have to.
What's that?
Do we know, or do you think we might have to?
Think we would have to. I think Tim feels pretty sure of that. We can
Because-
chase it down further if you like more
Most
information.
grants, and maybe Kevin, when you get a government grant, are you getting a government grant on the right of way? Or are you getting a government grant for fixing the roadway improvement that you're getting a grant? At what point in time does that grant? Whether it's a roadway government, whether it's a grant for the roadway to improve the roadway, or whether it's a grant to have 100-foot right or a 40-foot right of way, so is the grant on the right of way or on the road? Because again, by asking that question, getting an answer, there's probably a way to get another 40 spaces out of this design. But if what you see is what you want, then this is fine. They're moving in the right direction. If they get back up to the 181, it's the same thing. You're missing a lot of other opportunities, but good as you're gonna get if you're accepting those as forgiveness.
Yeah,
We can follow up more on the grant and what flexibility there is there. I'm happy to do that.
yeah, we should probably know that, I guess. I mean, if that is a constraint, then, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, if Chris points out and we've got some more flexibility, then, you know, maybe we rethink that. And that's, I remember one of your earlier designs kind of had, one of your earlier designs had some, along that, like Broad Street there, some parking, as I recall.
Yeah, we did show that, and, you know,
Yeah.
we had talked to Tim, and that's when he kind of raised that concern,
Okay.
and that's why we,
Yeah, I got you.
kind of
No,
backed
I
off of
got
it.
you. Yeah. All right, let's, I'll tell you what, so, maybe the thing is, I'm sorry. Please. Yeah, absolutely.
The little triangles right here when you enter the smaller section, right here. These two triangles, why aren't those parking spaces?
Those.
Because the angles are hard? I feel like along the same lines of what we're talking about, I would cut those two little triangles and get two more spaces there.
Yeah, those should square out.
Great. And then you mentioned EV chargers. I know in parking lot 12, we have the infrastructure for EV chargers in the future. I think we ought to do that here as well.
but yes,
Where are those gonna
we haven't identified it, but it would be
be along the same?
it would have, I'm thinking up here because we have the power up here with the existing light, so we can get the power easier up there.
Greg,
along
is
the
it going to be a
buildings.
similar thing where you need like a certain percentage type thing, or?
No, I mean, we can put as many in as we
Okay.
would like.
So it isn't like if you have 180, you need, I don't know,
No, yeah. you could-
10% or some crazy thing
No.
like
Do
that.
you need this group to weigh in on how many we ought to have? And I think if I remember correctly, parking lot 12 has. Is that right?
Yes.
You're set up to get 4.
Set up
We didn't set them
So
up.
is there
So
any,
the infrastructure's there, but
Right.
we have to.
Right, right.
install the
And
chargers.
is there any plan to do that? Because I feel like that's the kind of thing there's definitely federal grant money for.
So,
Yeah.
the sustainability committee talks about that. There are grants. The last one that we saw was really complex and we just weren't there yet.
Okay.
But I would like to go after grant funding. We did talk to, Eric from Walker Consultants who worked with us on the
Yeah.
parking plan. And he recommended that when we roll out EV charging, we need to do it as sort of a broader thing, not just 4 spaces in a sort of,
Yeah.
you know, far out. of the
So maybe all around the community
So
kind
I
of thing.
think we
Yeah.
want to get the infrastructure in a few places before we sort of say St. Joe has a program.
Is it likely that
I want to make sure we keep working towards that.
is it likely the grant money wouldn't support the infrastructure piece or just the actual charger thing?
Typically, from what I've seen, it's the chargers, the stations themselves.
It's the station itself. So you got to have it, all the wiring there just to
I mean,
plug.
I know if you buy a fully electric car for your, like, you can get money from the government to
Yeah.
install the thing you need in your garage to charge your car.
You can get it for now.
Yeah.
You might
Yes,
not in
right
2
now.
months.
But, yeah, I mean, part of that. Yeah. So it just seems like
Be ready for it.
be ready for it. And also, I mean, even if we only have 4, I mean, I like big sweeping gestures and rolling it out around the town, but if the infrastructure is there and there's an ability to get money to start building it, you know, you gotta build it and then they will come. Cause I'm sure there are people who have electric cars that drive to work. There
No,
has to
no
be.
doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, parking lot 11 to me feels like
Perfect
that'd
for
be
it.
a time to.
Yeah.
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 I think parking lot 12 is so far, if we could launch the two together,
Mhm.
maybe it would feel more impactful.
Mhm.
Because right now, according to my son, who drives a EV, it's Panera and Meyer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Meyer has a
Stevensville.
lot of them.
Meyer's got a bunch.
Um,
Yeah, they do.
So there's nothing downtown at
Yeah.
all, so.
So is 4
So,
enough?
so we should be ready for it, huh?
How
Four-
many does Meyer have?
Oh,
Meyer
they
has
have
at
a
least
bunch
a
of 'em.
dozen.
They got a bunch of them.
They have an entire row.
Is it always
Yes.
full?
No,
No.
no, but it's,
There's
Like, it's a whole row. It's like, cause you can
There's
see
probably
it from the
6 or
road
8
when you
of
drive
Panera.
by.
I was
isn't
gonna
there?
say Panera probably has a half a dozen.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Those
Meyer
look-
has at least a
Those
dozen.
look full. a
Both
lot
of them
times.
have them sort of at the perimeter, right? I mean, they're kind
Yeah,
of
they're
at
at
the
the
end of their
farthest,
parking
yeah,
lot. They're
they're
not right
along
in
the
the
edge
center
of
like
Meyer.
this.
Right.
So that's something to be aware of.
Well,
Okay.
And EV
sure.
parking is usually only electric vehicle parking, right? Like
That's right.
It's discouraged, so it's like.
Yes,
you
that's
wanna get
right.
That sweet spot where you don't have too many, where you're
Yeah,
blocking.
that's
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, good
right.
point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's the only
Exactly.
open
If I see
spot,
those
I
4
can't drive in
spots
there.
right on the main.
I think
street.
the 4 number, it seems like a reasonable approach to infrastructure
So
4, and
maybe-
then we kind of see what happens.
Maybe
So,
lot 12 is a good,
yeah,
place
maybe,
for 'em.
maybe you put more there. 'Cause people, yeah.
Maybe. And then my last question is just about lights. I know paid parking coming, folks have raised concerns about staff walking late at night when the restaurant or the bar, whatever
Yep,
closes
yeah.
into a dark parking lot.
Mhm.
Can you just speak a little bit about lighting?
Well, we didn't show it on this, because I wasn't sure how all of these were gonna turn out. I would have put them in each of these items, but keeping in since we're not responsible at the top as far as how far they throw light, I guess.
Okay.
So with the lighting that's there now, those giant tall poles, would that stay or not stay? Cause I mean, there's giant light poles in this parking lot now in the
Yeah,
center
they're,
of it.
I think they're extremely tall. I
They
think
are
we-
very
I-
tall.
I think we can bring them down, which would help with lighting. So my thought is that those would come out because a lot of that's gonna become park, because we're gonna lose that center
Yeah.
concrete island that's in
Right.
there. So I think those would come out and we could look
Yeah.
at
They're probably obsolete. I
other options.
suspect. You
They're
probably-
LEDs. We've converted those to LEDs, so from that
Ah,
aspect,
right.
but you know, at the end of the day, those poles are 30 some years old and
Yeah.
might as well put some new poles up that are gonna last another 30, 50.
Yep. Okay, so I think where we're landing here is that we need to just run this right away thing to ground, just to make sure we fully understand that, but just park that for a moment, because that would be just an added increment. But in the current design, what we're saying is keep the perimeter green and kind of maximize the spaces inside by eliminating, the various islands through the center stripe and on each end. And I think we get to a spacing before we potentially get any incremental spacing from the right of way. And we'd be happy with that if we don't have an
Well, the
option.
incremental spacing from the right of way is 40 spaces.
Yeah,
So if
it's a
we're
big
so
number.
worried about spaces,
Yeah.
then that should be something that should be investigated.
No, absolutely. Absolutely agree with you.
for
Agree with
sure.
you. So, okay, so is that, Emily, is that all right? Does that sound okay? All right, so we leave it at that for now? Yeah.
So I guess to get some clarity on the walkway. I guess my just looking at it, thinking we could eliminate the green space on either side here. I think we've got to keep it here because of the handicap, but maybe this still serves as kind of a pedestrian refuge. Because you're
Yeah.
gonna have two-way traffic and there are people gonna be driving through that gives people a little
Yeah.
safety comfort.
I
So
mean-
you could gain some parking obviously down here on this side. This, I don't know, maybe those could be eliminated, I guess, right next to the handicap.
Well, if you want to make it a
But
gateway.
Maybe keep that.
Of sorts.
We can get 4 spaces just by making them skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris,
I think
what do you
leaving
think about
something
that?
in here gives a little
I know,
refuge.
If you're retrofitting what's here, you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
You're looking for opportunities, you're walking down the wrong road. Okay, and again, as we suggested before, the best place for that entrance point would be right between the buildings, so that if you're
Yeah.
coming into the lot, you're directing yourself between the buildings. You then are starting to build on what we're trying to do on Pleasant Field, what we're trying to do on Core Plaza, and you're building activity and you're building value. You're just holding you're holding the water, fine.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
so this, I know,
You're just not, but again, you're doing no evil. You're not doing any good. You're just doing no evil.
well, that's a start, I guess. So this entryway, I know we've talked about this entryway off of Broad Street previously. And there was a cost element, there's other things. Give us 2 seconds on that entryway off
mean-
of Broad there.
Tim doesn't like it.
It does, oh.
Yeah. So
Essentially-
end of
Okay.
conversation.
Oh, because the issue is now it currently aligns with the street. Right.
Correct.
There's no reason for it to line with the street. How many other parking lots, the other parking lots in town, how many of them align with the streets?
Well, I don't,
Not many.
yeah, okay. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, I don't.
So Tim Drews doesn't like it. Let's just be clear on which Tim. So we reached out to our traffic engineer, which is Tim Drews from Avonmarsh, who looked at this and weighed in. And his assessment is that, I don't have the technical term, so I apologize, but if we shifted it down to align with that walkway, it would create congestion and risk for accidents because of the way it would be staggered with, what is that, Church Street? Right there. And so
Wait,
I don't
Court.
understand.
Court. And so if you've got people trying to turn into both streets,
Yeah.
you
Because
end
there's
up,
So much traffic, excuse me, because there's so much traffic, so much congestion, that would be a travesty.
so look, I can't know,
Yeah,
other than to say the engineers
that was his opinion.
recommend against it.
Right.
I talked to Tim Zebel last week and I was like, look, give it to me straight. How concerned do we need to be?
Yeah.
I think he feels pretty strongly that if the gap were bigger, it would be easier. The way that it would be staggered, he thinks would create a lot of congestion.
I don't
I-
understand how it's gonna cause congestion. I'm not trying to be
Yeah,
dense. I just don't,
Close it off then.
well, I just don't understand, like Court Street's not like a big
Not a
thoroughfare.
busy
Right.
place, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I would imagine most of the traffic would be going along Broad Street, coming from either direction.
But so I mean, I just don't know congestion
So,
how.
I mean,
Like,
I think it is
I'm
yeah.
mystified.
If you come off a
someone
court
driving
trying to
this
go into the
way and
parking
trying to
lot,
turn
then it's a
here
tricky
and someone
turn,
driving
that's
this
all.
way and trying to turn here.
Yeah, right.
And what you end up getting is cars sort
Oh,
of
I see.
getting
Right.
caught up if they're trying to go at the same time, and you can sort of end up with
I
traffic resulting.
You're worried
from that.
about people who are coming like to turn,
Or out of the parking lot. I mean, I'm in over my depth here, but
I just,
I think it is the distance here to here that is too close and creates
to the opening.
a risk of congestion and accidents. I think if it were further down, it actually is better. So right now it's consistent and that's good. And if it were further down, it would be good, but being too close and staggered,
Yeah.
in my layman's,
I mean,
terms is less
I
good.
see that idea. I guess that what you struggle with is that, there just isn't a lot of cars there typically. I mean, coming off of Court Street, I don't know. I mean, I guess cars come off of Court Street, and I could see the issue that you're describing, but, it gets to be an issue of volume. I
yeah,
don't
the only
know.
time I've seen Broad Street full is like when people are leaving the fire.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all these streets are,
But then no one's trying to go into the parking
we don't
lot at
have-
that hour.
The context that you have to put it in is that you got Main Street here with the signal and you got Broad Street.
Mhm.
And then you got that alley right there behind the bank.
Yeah.
Same distance. How many wrecks have we had there? I mean, again, it's a traffic concern. It's a real traffic concern. I'm sure they're studying it. Being as sarcastic as I can be.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, I mean, a volume issue.
So there's not-
It's a volume issue. That's
Yeah.
what it is. You're trying, the safety is in the conflicting left-hand turn motions.
Yeah.
And so when you have intersecting streets that have lots of left-hand turn motions in both ways, then you fall into a category of standards that all these engineers look at. But when you start penciling it down in terms of your backyard, then most of the interstate traffic volumes and traffic engineering principles
Yeah.
don't work if you're not on the interstate.
I mean, I don't know how we, I guess I don't know how we get over this issue because we've had this conversation a number of times we've got the experts kind of telling us don't do that. And we like, I mean, I get the idea of obviously having this runway between the buildings. I mean, that's a plus, but
Remind me, Greg, 'cause I remember correctly in the last meeting, Chris was very clear, but I feel like there was something that was a trade-off if we were to, would we lose parking in any way if we were to shift it down? Because if not, I think what we ought to do is just say that this is what the DDA recommends. And if there's an issue, we'll continue to talk about it. Maybe Tim can come to the next meeting. Or we move forward.
Well, it wouldn't, shifting this wouldn't change, what we've discussed already, I guess, in terms of.
But you discussed getting rid of that access point. So you've already eliminated the ability to come up and emphasize the access to, Fort Plaza.
Yes, yes.
With all of the, with the extra places. But again, depending on what the right of way shows, I mean, again, there's, to me, that's just a cosmetic piece. If the right of way stays where the right of way is, it's not worth, worrying about having all these people do different things. Half a loaf isn't worth wasting the time.
I got two thoughts. One, the 2027 MDOT project, they've done a ton of traffic studies. Do they have any data on Broad in this part that we could use?
They just focus on
Just
Main.
on Main.
just on Main.
Well, then that's a moot point. The other thing is, I remember a commission meeting from 2 or 3 months ago where the number of free parking spots was a huge issue moving forward with
Oh,
paid
yeah.
parking,
Yeah.
which is also a priority of the master plan in the same way that the aesthetic of our parking lots is. And I think having the whole board in mind, having the whole chessboard in mind and seeing like if 40 spots or however many spots we can get extra helps us move that project forward, I think that should weigh into our prioritization.
Yeah. for sure.
Of how many spots we can. squeeze
Yeah,
out
I
versus
think,
whether-
I think we'd be in agreement. And if we had more flexibility there, we certainly want to look at that concept. I mean, relative to where that entry point is, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to, again, you don't want to disrupt the 181. Based by what they're saying today, they take out all of these things and take out all the islands and they get back to 181. Then if you want a Band-Aid, do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the other options are just options. If you want an improvement, you can go for an improvement.
Well, but if we can add space, if we could take the 181 and add 40, we're even better, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just math, right? I mean, so irrespective of where we put the entryway. So, sake of argument, you leave the entryway where it is and you do the walkway. And if there's the potential to pick up additional spaces in the right of way, I mean, strikes me as a home run, but I don't,
So I think what I'm hearing is next steps for us are to explore the right of way further
yes.
and to look at the move and press on that a bit more.
Right. And then in addition, do the cleanup on the inside of the lot that we've discussed in terms of eliminating islands, adding spaces,
Because I mean,
the electrical thing, we gotta, make sure we accommodate that.
the math on this with the additional parking options, if you add all 3 of them and you actually gain 10 spots, it goes up to 191, unless I can't do math, but, which is entirely possible. I'm kind of
That's
tired.
good.
That's
I
right.
mean, as a cosmetic, that's the move in
Yeah.
the right direction.
But
I mean, I don't know. I think everybody, I think we got general agreement on that. Subject to those 2 issues, the right of way and the driveway, which moving the driveway doesn't really, I guess unless you made it go all the way through, you'd lose some spaces.
You
right?
don't, yeah, it's
But
a net zero there. You move it, you don't gain spots, you don't lose spots. It's just.
yeah, then you don't need the walkway. So
Yeah.
right. So, okay. All right. So, so again, you guys all right? So if we do a good job of confusing you guys, I think every meeting, but if we're successful at that, then we've had a good discussion. No, it's a good discussion. I think we're flushing out now where we want to get to. I think we're very close to it, subject to vetting these couple of items. And hopefully, maybe next go round, we can put this to bed.
Yep.
I think. Yeah,
Put it on the January.
sound all right? Okay, yeah, all right with you guys? Okay. All right, Emily and Kelly, we'll leave this in your capable hands to investigate those items for us. And we will press on. Okay, next item hopefully a little less complicated. Bye-bye. Is the meeting schedule for next year. So Emily and Kelly and I talked about this and we looked at the calendar for 2025, and basically you have in your packet there, page 18, if we stuck with the Monday, first Monday of the month, this is what the schedule looks like. We made a couple of tweaks around July
My other,
July 4th and Labor Day.
my other tweak would be November 3rd is the day before an election. I know it's not a big election, but I
That's
know
great.
the 4th is election day.
And this room is not available.
Right.
Good call.
So we make that the 10th.
No, yes,
I believe that's Veterans Day.
I think the 11th is
11th is
Veterans Day.
Veterans.
What is that?
The 11th is Veterans Day.
But is it a Monday holiday?
I
I-
think it's actually on Veterans Day, isn't
Is
it?
it?
It's on the 11th, yeah. it's moved.
We might,
Oh, okay.
we
I
might
always
want to
thought it
push
was
to the
Monday.
17th anyways, because that's a long weekend and folks might choose to take the long weekend, but I defer to you guys on that.
I don't know what a long weekend
So you're
is, so
saying
you guys
that-
do whatever you want. I work all
You're
weekend.
saying the 10th or the 17th?
Yeah.
You're asking our preference?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Makes no difference to me.
I don't know. Picks one after the other. Let's
Yeah, I don't
say,
know right now.
well, we'll leave
when's-
Veterans Day alone. Let's make it the 17th. And I think if we do, you know, now we start getting close to the December meeting. I mean, maybe that's one we bag at that point, but
I think you could leave it on the calendar and make a decision at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, no, no.
if
Well,
there's-
all of these are subject to that. I mean,
Right.
if something
Right.
comes up on May 5th and we had to move it because of whatever.
yep.
I mean, this thing's always subject to whatever happens in the ensuing months. Okay, so we'll leave that with one addition there, of changing the 3rd to the 17th. And we will go from there. Right?
Sounds great.
You'll put out the invitation thing.
Yep.
I don't have it in my calendar. It doesn't exist. So we will go with that. All right. Next item of business is the DDA TIF Advisory Board. So you recall last time we had this discussion about putting the TIF in place in the downtown area. And this issue of because we have so many residents, over 100, I believe the number is, we had to have an advisory board. But we initially thought that we could avoid that by vote of the commission. And apparently, that's not the case. We can't do it with just the vote of commission. We would need to solicit a vote of the residents of 20% of the existing residents. So if we had 100, for example, we'd need 20 signing and saying we don't need an advisory board.
Right.
So the problematic piece, and I don't mean this in any negative sense, is the Whitcomb, because there's a lot of people that live there. There's, what do we have, 85 you're saying here.
Yeah.
So that's our stumbling block. And again, I don't mean this negatively, it's just math, right? That's the number. So I had corresponded with Emily about this, and I said, well, okay, so what are our options? Is one, we can have the advisory board and kind of deal with the mechanics of that, or two, we can try and go solicit 20% of the members to eliminate that possibility, or three, we could cut the Whitcomb out of the DDA. But then we start thinking about, well, you know, now there's taxes there and we might lose that increment and all that. And maybe that's not a good solution relative to trying to solicit 20% of the individuals to, you know, to say, we don't need this. I don't know, you know, going to people and saying, oh, we're going to get rid of this kind of thing. It could get a little dicey, I guess, for lack of a better description. And I get that, you know, people might say, well, what are you doing? Why won't you have this? And blah, blah, blah. Right. So I think we kind of keep coming back around to, well, we'll just have the you know, if in fact we move forward with the TIF situation, we just have the advisory board. We solicit volunteers because that's what this will be. I think the primary thing we need to instill upon this group is that they are purely advisory. And that's, they don't really have any authority, if you will, to make decisions regarding the TIF, the funding, how we manage it, you know, all this kind of good stuff. So if we did proceed with the advisory scenario, how many people is that?
We would need 9.
9. Okay.
And they have
So
to be
amongst the
residents of the
residents,
DDA,
we would need 9,
All have to be residents.
all
and
residents.
they all have to be
Is there any
resident.
other designation that needs to be on that board?
I believe they have to be adults.
Adult residents, that's it,
Yes.
that's all you need.
To the best of my memory, that's all you need.
So, you know, part of when I was talking back and forth with Emily about this like this, what's not totally clear to me is the actual numbers of this. I know we kind of throw out 85 and all these kinds of things, but you know, now we've converted a bunch of these, our housing here to short-term rentals, right? So,
Well, they're not residents.
well, no, exactly. That's my point.
Okay.
So, you know, so the issue is what is the pool you're going to get this advisory board from? I mean, I hate to keep, I don't want to be negative here on the Whitcomb thing, but I mean.
Yeah, is it
you
gonna
know,
be all Whitcomb residents?
well, yeah, it could be. I mean, but you know, will they want to do that? I don't know.
I
mean,
don't
you
know.
you
I
got-
think that the numbers are based on the latest census. I think
Yeah.
that's how the language refers to it. So we can get specific numbers and share
Yeah,
them
can
with
we-
you if it's
can we
helpful.
pin-
But
just so
yeah,
we
they
know what-
wouldn't reflect the changes to short-term rental and would reflect, you know, any increase or decrease from long-term rentals either.
But were those, the units that were short-term rentals, like you have short-term rentals, were they previously year-long rentals that you convert? Okay.
Right, so we've
Yeah,
got.
so they had
both,
residents, right?
But I would think like,
Yeah,
half of ours are short-term and half are
Yeah.
mid or long-term. So I would think my long-term tenants
Yeah.
would be great.
Be residents, right?
They'd be great members of the advisory board.
okay, all right, so,
I think
I
the
think we can-
challenge, and I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I think the challenge is when you present, it's hard to present rationale to not have an advisory board.
yeah. I agree with
Especially
that.
when it's tied to funding. They're created for a reason.
Yeah,
And when you start talking about I think, I almost think it would be easier to create the advisory
yeah,
board.
yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest obstacle to creating one is getting 9 people.
Just
that
getting the
wanna-
people, right, that's
that Are
right.
gonna do it. but-
I agree with
My
that.
thinking
I agree with
is,
that.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
I think that we try to find 9 people. If we can't, then there's a rationale, right? We tried to find 9 people to
Yeah.
do this, and here's all the due diligence we did. And if we
Right.
run into issues,
Right.
then we say, okay, we're gonna try to get signatures
What
to.
is?
Maybe the
not do
residents will
this.
surprise us.
mean,
Maybe
I can
9
think
people will come
of-
forward and we'll be like,
I can
oh.
think of
Yeah.
5
Give me-
people off the top of my head who
Great.
would be
Great.
wonderful.
And we can get addresses,
So,
maybe just the property
Yeah.
owners, but we can probably mail letters to inquire, see if
That's
people
601
downtown.
Port Street's not part of the DDA, right? Okay.
It's
So
not.
what, all right, a couple of things I'm thinking about. So where are we on the TIF approval itself? Let's pin that down because.
It's on hold until we have this in
Okay,
place.
all
That's
right. So,
required.
so I think the general consensus here, we proceed with the advisory, but the
Okay.
assumption that we'll have an advisory board. So the idea is we put the TIF in place, we get it all approved, or whatever that is, and then at that point, we have to appoint that board or we have to do it in advance.
The other way around, and I
Okay.
apologize, I don't
Of course,
remember
yeah.
exactly. I knew this a month ago. I believe we have to have the advisory board formed
In place.
like 60 days before we can have a
Ah,
public
right,
hearing. Like
right,
there's,
right. Of
everything
course.
has a timeline. So we will
Right.
be on hold until we can do that.
All right.
Great news, we have someone who can do that.
Yes, so
So-
let's pin down we have to solicit, do we do this in a public notice or how do we have to do it?
I don't think that's spelled out. I'm sorry, I don't have the language with
It's
me.
okay.
I
all right.
don't think it's spelled out. I think that we will figure that out.
Okay.
We'll review it.
Okay.
We'll make sure whatever it is,
Okay.
we follow the steps.
But this
and-
is the direction we're gonna go.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, yeah,
And-
I think everyone's
Well,
right on
and Would
this.
they, just like all of us did, there's an application to be on any city board or commission, would they, I'm sure there's paperwork
I
like
think
that
that
involved.
would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
I hadn't
Yeah.
gotten that far because I'm so
Yeah.
Yeah.
excited to just try to find 9 people who are
Right.
Yeah,
willing.
well, right,
But
right,
you're
right.
right.
Well, we
That's
might be
absolutely
surprised.
What we
We
should
might
do
be
is-
surprised.
Is
Who
do
knows?
the
Right.
interviews. Yeah.
Can it, yeah,
Once we
Go ahead.
have an advisory board, can you reverse that and say maybe the advisory board is like, this is no longer working? We now want to do the petition and kind of reverse it after the
Yeah.
fact?
I would think so, but I'll need to talk to Lori and make sure.
so
Good
tell
question.
me then, when you have this advisory board in place, what's the, I mean, is there rules on like how often they gotta meet, what they gotta talk
So
about?
The advisory board,
Advising us.
Yeah, what are they advising, right?
so the DDA TIF will have some requirements.
Okay,
You might remember that we created a plan for the 30 years, what we
Right.
projected the funding would be
Mhm.
and exactly how we thought we would spend it. So we had those really detailed budget documents that showed exactly what we plan to do. And there is a write-up, a narrative that goes along with it. So they would be weighing in on the plan each year. And I would think meeting once to review the plan and weigh in would be sufficient, but again,
Okay.
I'll double check. But that is the intent, is that they are advising
sure,
on how you're actually spending the money,
right.
and what the long-range plan
So it
is
could be
for
an
the 30
annual
years.
meeting to discuss this
That's
year's
sort of what I'm
budget or
picturing.
this kind of thing.
Yep,
or whatever.
I'll make sure that Kelly and I have more details on the advisory board
Yeah,
next
just so
time.
we
I
know the
apologize.
mechanics of it, right? So so
but
maybe
yeah.
this isn't as, I know we're a little bit fearful that this might be onerous and, you know, we're
Yeah.
gonna create all kinds of issues and things, but I suspect, that won't be the case. I mean, I think if we get the, you know, get the right group, we welcome their input. They all live there, so,
Right.
you know, they're a part, you know, they have a vested interest in supporting what it is we're trying to do, so.
I think
Okay,
that's right.
All right, so you got enough direction on that,
Yep.
Kelly, and, okay, very good. So we will proceed to form the advisory board. So the question is, you know, yeah, all right.
What?
No, I was gonna say, I mean, maybe, can Sue be both?
Yes, please. I think so.
I was gonna say, I think volunteer with Jim would be.
Well, there you go. There
Perfect.
you go. There you go. All in the family. That's right. I'm with you. I like it. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's see. So now we're down to updates. Emily, you want to just kind of run through these here? I mean, I think
Yep.
we can all read and all that good stuff, but is there any
Um,
highlights you'd like to point out in the
So
retail activity?
Lots of
It seems like
action.
we've had a certain rash of
closures.
losses. Yeah.
Yeah, we have had a few big
Yeah,
ones. I mean,
yeah.
you know,
The Kingfisher, the
yeah.
taco place, the Third Coast Surf Shop,
it's a shame.
the Beachside Deli thing, that's
Yeah, well,
been
that's been
closed
big
for a
That's been
while.
quite
closed
some
for like
time.
5
Yeah.
years.
So we've got,
Yeah.
so this is something I'm always sensitive to, watching this.
Yeah, the
you know.
Beachside Deli, as I understand it, has been leased like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the tenant is still paying rent to the best of my knowledge and has not
So you're
opened.
just not using it. Huh,
So,
right.
you know, it's not exactly vacant,
okay,
or well, it is vacant, but it's not unleased.
Do you know what the plans were for that?
yeah, anything.
It was the Crazy King.
But I don't
Burrito
think
people.
Yeah.
What is
I don't-
that?
Crazy King Burrito people.
Oh,
Which would be a great addition.
yeah, burrito.
Fabulous addition. I
Burritos.
know, I would love it.
Who doesn't like a burrito?
They're
That's
in
right.
they're down in, they have a location down in Stevensville.
At the
next to
gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't know, I
I've
don't
never
like
been in there. Have
burritos.
you ever been in there? I haven't been in there. I'm a little reluctant. It's
I have
like
a
gas
weird
station
mental thing
sushi,
about
right?
going
Yeah.
Taco John's
I
used
think
to
I
be
was-
there and I
don't like
definitely
the
went in.
role of
Yeah.
secretary.
Have you been there?
Weird
Yeah,
to me.
all right.
I don't
Yeah.
eat
Heard it's
wraps.
good.
I don't eat.
Yeah, that's what I hear too.
I don't like
Okay.
breakfast
The
burritos,
Culinary
like,
Cottage
so
opened,
weird.
which is great, and they have a
So I
bakery
don't
as
know.
well. The Heritage Museum relocated.
Yep.
The Melrose Aesthetic Med Spa is supposed to open pretty soon. We already talked about the vacancies. Kingfisher is the newest on the list.
Yeah, That didn't go, huh?
500 Main Street is sort of back working with us again. They've got some designs. They're hoping to move forward pretty quickly. They will actually be on the agenda for the commission meeting tonight, seeking a tax incentive and OPRA, Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act tax exemption. So hopefully we can find something that will help them get to open.
That's cool. Yeah.
Sanitary cleaners sold, but they're still in business. And the St. Joe Wine Shop is expanding.
Yes,
I was
I
there
saw that. They're
yesterday
working
and
on
it
it
looks
already.
like
That's
they're
cool.
really moving.
Yeah, she has an her inspection just to increase the retail space was supposed to happen last Thursday during that snowstorm.
Yeah,
So
right.
they rescheduled till today. So she anticipates doing most of the construction right around New Year's and was hoping, but you know, it's the liquor commission. And the goal is she'll have a full Class C liquor license and it will be like a wine bar.
Nice.
Yeah.
But she anticipates it will take probably up to a year because
yeah.
welcome to Michigan
The liquor license.
to
yeah.
get that liquor license in place.
I know this because I'm working on a liquor license. I know the story. It's not
But
a pretty
she's-
one.
Is it unique to Michigan that it's so
Yes.
hard? Ah,
Well, I mean, I haven't lived in every state, but the other
It was
states are
hard in New
no,
York.
Was it?
yeah,
For sure, yeah.
Oh,
but Michigan is bonkers crazy.
It's a process, I
Hey,
can tell you. It's
I have a
process.
question, because I don't know why I get asked that. So like Silver Beach Hotel, they painted, it looks great and stuff. Is the interior renovation of that complete, or are they still working on some? I'm just curious,
The last I heard, they were still working on the top floor. That
Okay.
was a while ago though, so they might be done.
I was just curious,
Yeah.
I didn't know what.
I
they're
know they
still-
were,
The
Silver Beach Hotel.
they were working really quickly. They opened last summer with, I think, 3 floors incomplete, and then they finished 2 of them.
Okay.
I can't say where they are in the
I was just.
final.
curious.
Yeah,
Some good progress.
I've heard nice things.
It looked, yeah, that's an
The interior
improvement.
renovation is nice.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit negative on that, but it's good to see that it's looking better. Yeah, I think I affectionately called it the ghost hotel at one point, but
As far as these
That's good.
vacancies, is there a way to target businesses and say, this is exactly what we're looking for in our downtown? So we can kind of.
Yes.
know what we're
Yes.
We
attracting.
have that study.
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So we
right.
had the study done. We
Yeah.
had the marketing strategy done. We have Kelly. We have Kayla, who's going to do communications.
Yeah,
We've got all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
would
we-
imagine
yes.
Kingfisher, because it's brand new and I'm sure Jay did a really nice build out of that space, that another restaurant would be very
go
eager
easy to go in
to,
there. Yeah,
just because the infrastructure of a,
yeah.
a lot of that, it's expensive, so.
I mean, this is part of our overall
would think.
development activity. I mean, should be, it's because it's not just, breaking ground
I
on
would
new
die if I could
facilities.
do it.
It's also,
We want one in the market. I
making
can't
sure our
find anyone to
existing
do it.
spaces are
I-
utilized, so.
Trust me.
What-
yeah,
what
that's
is,
why I want sushi, I don't-
The only other
I've
question I
looked
had on
for it.
this is, my understanding is the Children's Museum is gonna move into the Heritage Building. That's why they vacated, right?
Yes.
And what are they gonna do with their old building?
Their plan right now is to continue to use it.
They're gonna keep it. Oh, wow.
Use it for what?
Children's Museum.
Oh, so they're gonna have 2
That's,
or a third load?
that's the plan to the best of my knowledge right now.
Oh,
Oh. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
that is interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay.
my wife doesn't tell me everything. Okay. Add it to the list of everything else, right? Okay, very good. So, well, let's see. All right, what else do we got here? Short-term rentals, doesn't look like there's any changes in that
Nothing
at
new.
this point. So that's up and running though. That's good. Any more applications in the hopper at the moment?
Not
No.
that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No.
Then we have our timeline here. Nothing new there, Emily?
We
or-
added Pleasant Street resurfacing from Lake Boulevard to Court Street. will either be
right.
spring of 25 or fall of 25.
Oh,
So that's exciting and
That is
needed.
exciting.
Yeah.
There's some holes you could go
Yeah,
to swimming
it
pool
is
in.
needed. I think that's really it. We moved a couple of pieces around. State Street rehab, I think, shifted back again. But I think that's the bulk of it.
All right.
when, I was just curious, when is the next round of meetings with MDOT where they'll start to zero in on design and stuff like that?
So
for
we're
Main
meeting
Street?
with them regularly. We meet with them weekly, every other week.
Oh, wow.
Greg might not be on those meetings. I've met with them recently.
Okay,
And we brought JPR on, thanks to
okay,
the DDA,
right,
and they are already weighing in on design.
okay, good.
I know that we talked about doing the next round of public meetings, I think early in 2025. So I think that will be coming soon.
They gotta be getting close to finalizing that, no? I mean, because a timetable is.
So they've gotten the counts back from the study they did, so they should have something soon.
Because it's late 26,
They
early
also
27.
brought on their CMGC, construction manager, general contractor.
Oh,
So
wow.
they've gone through the procurement process. They brought on
Right, right.
Kalen. So we're getting close.
I would think they'd get close to
'Cause
finalizing.
it seems to me, as we go through any of these projects, it's really important that on the front end, we get our thoughts
Yep.
communicated properly to the contractors so that we don't go down, these paths where it's not even close to what we had in mind. And
Yeah.
so I just wondered if, and maybe Chris with his expertise, are you in on any of these meetings
Think
or? Okay.
They
So-
haven't,
Yeah,
so
right
we-
now
we
it's
had-
just at the staff level. They're
Okay.
very small meetings.
Yeah.
But we-
Chris was in on all of the stakeholder and the public meetings.
Okay,
So his voice has definitely been incorporated. Let me find out when we can have them come back here. Talk
So
to
we
this
had
group.
commissioned, right, we had commissioned this organization to help us though with
Yes,
the design.
yes.
And they're our
And they are doing
liaison
that.
to the
right.
Yes.
state people.
Yep.
And, I don't know, did we see an initial design from them? I think, no, we
You
didn't.
guys haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Since we
that's right,
brought
I didn't think
JPR
so.
on.
Yeah,
So let me work on a timeline for that.
Great.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
wonderful. Thanks.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay. And then, let's see, what else we got? DDA initiatives. Is there anything there we haven't talked about? Parking, maybe give us 60 seconds on parking.
Parking, we executed an agreement for 20 pay stations. We need to work with Ben on sort of the financial side
Yep.
of that, make sure we have the new department set up and all of that, but we're working to get that in place. So that is exciting. I think the subcommittee needs to come back together pretty soon
Yeah,
to talk about next steps and timelines. I will probably aim for that for a Monday in early January. So it's moving for sure, and May
yep.
is right around the corner.
Mhm.
yeah, the tricky, so I've talked with Emily about this a number of times. I mean, the tricky part of this to me is we've approved 20 of the recommended, 40-ish, Emily, parking stations. So my concern was that, okay, we're gonna shoot the gun off and we put in 20 of these and, now it becomes a frustrating experience. So that was, I don't know. I
We
mean,
don't have enough and people are.
yeah, well,
having
right.
bad
Yeah, that was
experiences.
my thought on it, Brooke. I mean, I know, we're trying to kind of dip our toe in the water here a little bit and maybe, I don't know. I think that's something we got to think about before
Right.
we,
Well,
before
so
we shoot the gun off. on
we
it.
went to the commission, I want to say it was in September, or October, probably October, to talk through, it's probably right in front of me, to talk through the pay stations. We requested $420,000 for 37 pay stations. And there were members of the commission who were concerned about spending that much money when we will also have an app. And with appropriate signage, we could point people to the app rather than a pay station. And so what the commission decided to do was approve half of the request, which is how we got to 210,000. And we worked the numbers a little bit and got to 20 pay stations. What it essentially does is it covers every street. One side of every street that will have paid parking. It does not include the parking lots. That's sort of how I distributed the money and what the parking subgroup approved. So we would, if we move forward with what we have now, we would need to be very heavy on signage and point people to
Yeah.
the app or to nearby pay stations. But I think that's part of what the parking subgroup needs to talk about is, do we go back to the commission and look for additional funding so that we can say, okay, well, we've got 20, but here are our concerns. Here's what we're hearing from the consultants and from others about why it's best practice to have more. So I think that's what we need to sort of think through if we want to make another ask or if we want to rely on signage in the app.
I think-
Has the app been identified? Which one?
We're
you're
going to
gonna
use Passport, which is what we
Passport.
currently use in the parks.
I think once
Yeah, I mean, that, if
once
that's
you
when
use the
people,
app, it's gonna be, it's.
well, and
that's
if people
much
are
easier.
already using
Yeah.
it to go to
Other places.
Gene Clock or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to know
Maybe-
if the
it'll
people
be
who
all
park in
right.
the lots will have it or not.
Yeah,
I'm sure
maybe it'll
many
be
of them
all right.
will,
Yeah.
and those who don't, most or many will be able to easily download it. I'm sure for some people it will be a pain point.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that, percentage
Yeah.
breakdown will be.
It's just, the fear is just the initial.
Yeah.
When you again, when you
Right,
kind of.
it's already gonna be new. Yeah.
And if there's massive frustration because, oh my God, I don't know. There's gonna be some of that anyway.
But that's where I
suspect.
think, the education piece is going to be super
Yes.
important. And now that
Yeah.
you have a communications person in place, I think that's going to be key as this gets rolled
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
The other thing is I still am a little unclear in terms of communicating the benefits to our folks who are screaming about, what are you guys doing on the DDA? You guys have some really wild ideas, blah, 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 about paid parking. I think internally, we need to kind of get our collective thoughts together on what's the best way to communicate this. I was talking about a key benefit being revenue. And then in another meeting, one of the consultants goes, well, you don't talk about revenue. In my world, why
not,
else
right?
would you do it?
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I guess I'm wondering if prior to the public launch, I mean, it's already out there, but we can just take some time to figure out a communication strategy
Yeah,
with education.
absolutely.
points.
So one of the things that we've talked about before, I can't remember if I've shared it with this group. Apologies if I have. We did a survey to figure out the number of employees downtown,
Mhm.
which was what I think Paul was alluding to earlier, to figure out how many free parking spaces would we have in an ideal world if every downtown employee was going to park in a free space.
Mhm.
And so we did a survey and we kept the survey very concise. But one of the questions, the last question on the survey was, would you like more information about paid parking? And a huge number of people said yes, of course. These are all downtown businesses.
Mhm.
And I have not had time to reach out to them.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we have talked about doing, I know I've talked to the subgroup about this, is now that Kelly is here and Kayla is here, I'd like to hold small group meetings to talk about exactly that, to sort of explain the study, explain the benefits, hear feedback, and sort of talk through that. I would rather not do it in a huge session. We've had big meetings that
Right.
some have witnessed that have been really
They just go off the rails.
ugly.
Yeah, it's not productive.
I think
Yeah.
small,
That's the problem.
I think if
five
you could-
businesses at a time,
I
something
think
like
if you could
that.
get them to come,
Yeah.
like a short time period, prior to the retail space, spots opening, serve coffee and.
Yep,
And then
exactly.
I would you and I have talked about this before. I would strongly recommend having that parking consultant in the room
Yeah.
in all these meetings.
Yeah.
I think that would have gone a long way in that city commission meeting. It had that subject matter expert been in attendance. That would have taken some of the heat off the commissioners and off of you, Emily. But they need to hear from somebody who, this is not just unique to St. Joe.
Right.
This is how it's done all over the country. And so I think it's a really important they hear that person.
I mean,
from
I
the
think it's
person.
important to remember too, this is just my life experience, but there is a certain subgroup of, for me, it's customers or consumers or business owners or whatever, that they have a very, very firm notion of what something is and what it's gonna cause and what it's gonna be. And no amount of information is gonna permeate that bubble of this is a bad idea. They're not gonna be, they're not persuadable, they're not, they'll probably be mad about it always, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it or move forward or whatever. I just know that, I mean, I've talked to customers and told them stuff like that. I'm 1000% certain of how something is, and they're like, no. When we owed Jimmy John's, we would have customers come in, say, oh, we should have gone to Benton Harbor, it's cheaper. And I would tell them and say, I assure you it's the same price. No, I was there last week, it's cheaper. And I would say, well, maybe you ordered something different, but I assure you the prices are exactly the same. And they would just look at me like it was sad. I thought I knew what I was talking about, but they know what they know. And so that would, because I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with people who are vehemently opposed to it. And I've tried to walk through some of the stuff because I've been at all the parking and I've gone through it. I mean, I had this discussion with my son, one of my sons who thinks it a terrible idea, whatever. And he wasn't persuaded. He's like I'm nuts. And which is fine, but I'm just saying, I think we just have to always remember, I think it's a great idea because there are a lot of people that are like, I was opposed to it until I started sitting on those meetings. I thought it was a bad idea. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. But the people who are dug in now about being mad about it are going to continue to be mad about it. And they're going to continue stirring the pot about getting other people mad about it with them.
Emily has a really nice bullet point list of all the pros of this program. And I think that's.
Oh, that'd be great to see.
something-
Yeah.
It's very concise, it's very digestible, and it hits all the points.
Great.
Because being on the
I
parking
need
committee,
that.
it's taken months to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah,
you know, and
right.
we don't have, not every person in the public doesn't have months to wrap their brain around it, so that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And they see headlines in the newspaper,
sure.
you know, there's a paywall. Getting all of the information is really difficult.
Yeah.
So to your earlier point, we don't need to go into this right now, but the way that I explain it, which has the added bonus in my mind of being true, is that we are not doing paid parking for the revenues. We are doing paid parking to alleviate congestion. When you go down State Street, you can't find a spot or anywhere in that area, you are frustrated.
Mhm.
And because parking is free everywhere, there is no incentive to park anywhere other than the closest spot to where you are going. And so this is about smoothing out demand, using a cost
Mhm.
to get people to choose to go to other places. So rather than going to State Street, I'm going to go to parking lot 11 because it's free. Or
Mhm.
rather than going to State Street, I'm going to go to a lot because it's cheaper.
Mhm.
And so it starts to smooth out the demand. And what I always say is that as a bonus, we get revenue, right? That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it to have people who are parking make choices that benefit the downtown. But it does result in revenue, and that revenue is beneficial to the city because we do need that money.
Yeah,
We
that's
are
excellent.
sort of skating
That's
and
the
we need
best
to invest.
explanation I've heard.
Well, thank you.
No, that's
I've
great. It's
had a
like,
lot
it's
of
just hard
time
for me
to work
even-
on it.
Yeah, but
Um,
you know,
Psychology.
in addition, I do remember the consultant talking about studies and how that turnover of spots increases revenues
Sales
for
revenue in your
Yes.
stores.
revenues. And I think that's, you know, talking to particularly the State Street retailers who might not necessarily at this moment be in favor of it. I think those type, like, that's the kind of information in a small group setting, as you said, I think would be really interesting to them.
And we
So-
do have some of that research on
Okay.
the revenues. We
Good.
can try, I'd like to get a one pager or something
Yeah,
together.
Yeah,
that'd
and
be
I mean,
great.
I think the bullet points, and I'm sure they cover it, there's a lot of misinformation about that. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm gonna have to pay to park in February when it's wet. It's like, well, you're not gonna have to.
Right.
And you can keep telling people that. I mean, I've told some people the same thing over and over. It's during the tourist season or whatever
Right.
you want to call it.
Yep.
But the amount of misinformation that is floating around right now is bananas.
But I think part
Or
of
how
that,
much it's gonna cost.
but you know, the final plan, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but the final plan has not been released yet. Cause I don't know the final plan. I don't know
We
which lots are the lots be, you know, and along the
I
bluff.
think
going to
we
be
have a
paid?
scheme.
We
pretty
do.
much.
We
Okay.
I was
do.
gonna say,
So
I think
the-
it's out there.
Yeah, it has been approved by the commission.
Yeah.
I can do a refresher in January if it's helpful.
I think so.
But it's essentially what we originally proposed, which is
Okay.
that everything on this side of Main Street will be free.
Right.
And on the west side will be paid. On street will be $2 an hour with a 3-hour limit.
Mhm.
The lots will be $1 an hour up to all day. It'll be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And
All
it will,
all the lots along
Mhm.
Lake Bluff, okay.
yep,
Mhm.
and it will be just May 1st to the end of September.
And then we tweaked a few little things over by the library to give them some more free parking. and-
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you
So
say
like the
street one
parking
again?
committee has tweaked a few
The
little
streets are
things.
how much an hour for how many hours?
On street is $2 an hour, 3 hours max.
Yeah.
And the lots will be $1 an hour, no limit.
include, they can stay overnight. Because currently, if it's an all-day lot,
Yeah.
you can park your car there overnight.
Correct. So our ordinance says that you can't park overnight. We do not enforce that. We don't want to encourage drinking and driving is the biggest reason, but we also have the hotel and other things. And so for right now, that is exactly right. I do think we want to start to monitor it once we get this new program in place. Because one of our problems is vehicle storage, right? People can park in our free lots overnight for days and weeks on end without moving their car. And so I do think we're going to monitor how it looks once we have paid parking. And with this being free, if this ends up being, everyone downtown is storing their cars here, we might have a different challenge to work through. But no changes are being recommended
And
right now. We
did
just
we
need to
talk
keep that
at
on the
all
radar.
about- Refresh my memory, because I feel like there was conversations had about, because you can't park overnight in St. Joe
On the street.
on the street.
Right.
There's no overnight street parking, but there is a lot of people that live right near the downtown that either don't, have a narrow driver or whatever.
Right.
And I know we talked about that as a way for the residents who live right here to help alleviate, but I don't remember.
We haven't we haven't made any changes to on-street parking
Okay.
for overnight.
Okay.
Wait, before you flip the page,
Yeah.
and I'm not,
Say
it's not
Is
parking.
never 60 seconds.
Yeah.
No, I am not
Right,
talking
right.
about parking, Court
That
Place
was a
Plaza, because we
mistake
just
on
jumped
my
all the
part,
way
that's all.
down to parking. We didn't
Yeah.
go over the top things. Court Street Plaza or Court Place Plaza, the park, because as a DDA, we funded the activation thing
So
a year ago.
yes, I've not been shy in confessing that I've been the bottleneck on just finding time for that. Kelly and Kayla met with Jillian from Cornerstone last week
Okay.
to talk about getting the Patronicity website up. We have to do that fundraising
Right.
phase. And we hope to have that up very early in the new year.
Is
So
there
that
any
work is
possibility
underway.
that that construction could happen in the spring so that plaza would be available for the summer?
I think so.
Because
He didn't say
that's what
no.
I, as a DDA member and as a business owner, that would
Yeah.
be very well impacted. by. That is what I would love to see happen, and I just want
Absolutely.
to put that out there.
We're going to see.
It's
Yeah.
it's
And we have a final design that we kind of gone round and round on about whether we keep the sailboat.
Yeah, so I mean, now it's
Right.
just a question of getting the funding and then scheduling the work, but
Yeah.
time has a way of slipping through, and then all of a sudden, and then it's summer and you can't do anything.
Right.
And so.
I think we've cut this down to being pretty
I think it's
modest,
pretty-
as I recall.
doable.
So I don't know,
I think that's right.
I mean, there's a bigger idea of a more impactful plan sometime, but for
Mhm.
now, we're gonna put
Well, but for now, I would
We're
like
gonna
to do
put-
what we're gonna do.
we're gonna put lipstick on.
Yep.
And I would like to do it
I think
in
Before
early
summer.
2025, if that's at all
Mhm.
possible.
The description is the way I would say it. Yeah.
Okay, now you can turn the page. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your approval. on that, Yeah. Okay. So, well, I wasn't done with this, but, before I was, jumped in there. So, maybe Emily, give us a couple minutes on the RRC real
Sure.
quickly. Yeah.
RRC is moving along. We
Yes.
have one deliverable remaining.
Yes.
Well, I guess two, but they're coming together. And that is Access to Information 3.8. We are doing the Community Development, spelled wrong, guide. We also need an incentives tool that identifies our economic development tools. That is going to be part of the Community Development Guide. So the goal is to have it done this calendar year. So we are getting very close.
Great.
I'm happy to share it out with this group if you want to review it, but we're almost there. We're already,
All this will be submitted then to the state
Mhm.
and they will
yep.
do their thing. And does that take long, do we think, or?
They do a review of everything
I'll bet.
at the end.
All right. So we may have some additional questions or
We could.
requirements or
We
what
could.
have you. Right.
But we are already talking
Yep.
to the redevelopment ready sites team, which is
Yeah.
the team you can work
Yeah.
with once you are certified. So they're planning to come out December 20th to do a sort of tour of the downtown and start thinking about what site we might target for development. So we're right there.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
moving forward with that group, anticipating certification is imminent.
You know, this is I think we've downplayed this, but this is really a tremendous accomplishment to get through this process. So kudos to Emily and all your troops on making that happen, because I know that
It's been a
it's not an
slog.
easy thing. A lot of
It's-
outside people, Cornerstone, this other gentleman who helps us all the time.
Yep, Joe.
All this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
a big deal to get this done. So when we have that in hand, we'll be ready to cut Kelly loose on filling in all these spots, right? Yeah. Let's see, what else do we got? The facade grant, is that all kind of done deal pretty
Done.
much?
Done. Our final project had a November 15th completion date and it was
Yep.
completed. So payment is processing there and we're done.
Yep, great. That's been a nice.
It's
Would it
been a
be
really
a
good-
thing we would want to continue to do, like start a new one, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know we
think-
talked about like one that was specific for awnings.
Yes,
I think that's a great idea. I really
Yeah.
do.
I think awnings would be great.
Yeah, there's a
So-
lot of sad ones.
Oh, targeted only for awnings?
Oh,
Yeah.
drawings, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know businesses would
We could
be
use some-
happy to do it. I mean, money's tight and an awning's it's a big
Yeah.
check to write. And so if there was
we could
money
use
to
some new
like
awnings or some-
alleviate that cost, I think there's a lot of business owners would be like, oh, for half of it, I will go get a new one.
I mean, it's
and freshen
instant
it up."
impact and then what an incentive as you're talking to potential people to fill some of these
Yeah.
empty
Well,
spots.
and I know
Yeah.
like Kelly at Perennial Accents had wanted to put awnings up and she struggled so hard with the application and the requirements for them or whatever, that she was willing to make the whole investment. She just struggled so hard trying to figure out what the requirements were to make it legal or whatever. She gave up.
Yeah.
And there's no pretty awning at her space.
Yeah, we have a lot of tired.
So
awnings.
that also helps people get through the application and the approval process.
Right,
if
we'd
they're-
wanna-
If it's part of this kind of thing.
We'd
so.
want to improve the process as well. So it could
Yeah.
go hand in
Yeah,
hand.
so I mean, I
that'd be
think it's
great.
Yeah.
to focus it. I think it would make a big impact on just the look of the downtown.
Sure.
I think
Absolutely.
the
Well, and
awnings
if
would
we
be-
can streamline our internal processes in
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
meantime.
while we're doing it, but
Hey.
it's a good project to like tweak some of that
So that is
stuff.
less frustrating for
I mean, yeah, I mean,
investors. That's great.
yeah, the reality is we spent 300,000 and it happened, right?
So maybe in the new
happened,
year,
you
we
know,
want to
2,
try
4,
it because we
6.
need.
Spent 75 grand.
Eight, yeah, I mean, 8
Yeah.
businesses made it happen.
But to
I mean,
identify
so-
some funds for that.
Yeah, funding, yeah, we
I
gotta,
think that's-
always
So
gotta
maybe
think
in
about
the-
how we pay for it.
The
But
winter and the spring, that would be a good thing
Yeah.
to put out there.
yeah, we'll have to think about how because last time we did kind of a joint, we had Cornerstone and the
20
city. and
25
us,
from the
and everybody
DDA,
was-
25,000
We were
from the
fortunate to have money
commission,
thrown at us
and 25,000 from
from
Cornerstone.
various sources, so,
Yeah.
The city will spend 50,000.
Correct.
Right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
What was the
so.
reason for the denial, the one denial?
It was, I believe it was temporary furniture. It just didn't meet the
Okay.
requirements.
Yeah. All right, Paul has left us. His report is on the back, your very last, the penultimate page in your package there. So all the winter events, Chili Tour, Winter Beer Fest, Ice Fest, all the good stuff. And the Beer Fest is a very popular, it's a very popular thing. Imagine people want to come out in the cold and drink beer. That's terrific.
I know they're looking for volunteers because I've gotten 2 emails.
I'm ready. I'm ready to pour beer for that. I'm all
I'm
in.
not.
I'm all in.
I did it. It's
I
cold.
told
A
Paul
fair
that,
weather volunteer.
It's very cold. I did it.
It's always.
like
I
a
told
couple of
Paul
chairs.
that only if I can sample. So he agreed that I could, so that keep me warm. Any rate, so I don't think anything else, anything, let's see, public comment?
I just want, thanks
Jasmine.
Craig for fixing our little light thing so fast over on Pleasant Street. Like I walked out there, I had like just texted Emily, I swear. And like, I don't know, it felt like I walked out an hour later and I'm like, oh wow, that's fixed already. Awesome.
Any
So
other,
thank you for your prompt attention.
any other comments from the board? Anything else that we need to consider? Okay, well, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So move. Second, good. All in favor? Aye. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you all for your time and effort, all your hard work. Kelly, welcome again. Hope we didn't scare you off. Yeah, not yet, but we're working on it though. We're working on it. All right, very good. All right. You guys take care. Have a good day, everyone. All right.